All right, good morning, everybody. Coffee with the Cops. We're just going to talk about a few things here. I actually have kind of a long agenda, but for those people that weren't able to make it this morning, this is obviously going to be publicized on our Facebook as well as on public access, so people can catch it there. We'll have it on Twitter, or some of it on Twitter, and on our website. First item is the school zones. Obviously school just started just the other day, so I just want to kind of throw out there just a little reminder that the school is back in session. Please pay attention to what's going on in those school zones with kids crossing the streets and with the speed limit. Definitely watch. We do have officers that are out there in the morning looking for people speeding through the school zones. And most of our schools, as you know, or a good number of them are right off of Highway 89. Main Street, and so it's pretty heavily traveled in the mornings and, well, in the afternoons, actually almost all day long, but we're really concerned about the morning and the afternoons and the proximity of the school to this highway to make sure that everybody's paying attention to what they're doing just so the kids get to school and back home safely. We did add a crossing guard. Thank you, Officer A. Strike, for working with the Newell School Administrator, Pam Strike. We have a crossing guard, Susie, is now over on the intersection of Main and Madison, which is one of our concerning intersections in the morning. Officer A. Strike and I talked about it, and I'm concerned about that intersection, especially with the middle school. A lot of the middle school kids coming and going, in that area. So I want to make sure that that we have somebody there. And the school agreed to come out there and put a crossing guard there for in the mornings and in the afternoons, to help make sure those kids get across, because as most people are aware, you've probably seen where driving around through the city where we are experiencing issues with people abiding by the crossing or the crosswalk laws. And as the law states, you need to be in a crosswalk, yield to somebody who's in a crosswalk, and I just don't feel comfortable having these younger kids taking that risk of putting their foot in the crosswalk so that they can abide by the law to make sure that people stop for them. So I feel better with a crossing guard out there with a stop sign, making sure they get across the street safely. Active shooter training refresher. Again, Officer A. Strike, that's his program. He works with Bill Dandoy from the county, and a couple other officers help out with it on a regular basis. Officer Wallace, Captain Selk, and several others. Officer Cedarwall's there on occasion. I think Officer Frischie, believe you've helped us. So it's most of the officers are partake in that. Officer A. Strike's taking a very proactive role in that with Bill Dandoy from the county, who also resides here in the city of Lake Mills. And thanks to them, actually, almost the entire county, the schools, both parochial and public schools, have been trained. The teaching staff has been trained to deal with active shooter type situations. And we did some refresher training with a lot of our schools here again, just before school had started. And so we should be, the teachers, the schools, the staff, they all feel pretty comfortable with it. So just gearing up to make sure that, again, that we can keep our kids as safe as possible when they're in that school setting. Crosswalk enforcement details. That's one of the biggest complaints I've been getting is people don't yield for people in the crosswalks. In fact, I had a individual the other day when school started. I was walking across Madison and Main myself in a crosswalk, and a lady decided that I was partway through the crosswalk wearing this uniform that you see right here, and she drove right in front of me without even yielding. That's illegal. She could have got a citation. I was en route to talk to the school crossing guard on her first day, and I did express my concern to her verbally as I was walking through the crosswalk to pay more attention to what she's doing. Somebody's going to get hurt, and so on occasion we are running some details with our officers out there, and on all the crosswalks, particularly the ones on the major streets. So if we're at that point where people are violating the crosswalks, and I'm talking flagrant violations, where somebody's in the crosswalk and a car drives right in front of you when they should be stopping, that's a flagrant violation. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get killed. So we are issuing citations on those. And the warnings for that are no longer occurring. So pay attention to crosswalks. Be courteous to our pedestrians. Let's let them get across the street. Whatever we're doing, is, it's not worth risking somebody's life for waiting for 30 seconds to let somebody cross the street. So please help us out there in the community if you're driving through Lake Mills and abide by those crosswalks. Events. We have probably seen, if you've been involved with any of the events or participated or attended them this year, we have quite a few events in Lake Mills. We did revamp a couple of them. It was just time because some of these events have grown a little bit, and the initial plans that we had in place just didn't seem to be doing serving us and the public as well as it should have. So Officer Wallace and we looked at a lot of the events very closely throughout the year, and we did add a lot more traffic control, officers out there directing traffic and making sure that we were able to minimize the traffic backup as well as make sure that everybody is being safe. So you're going to see more of that out there. We need to have officers out there directing traffic at the fireworks, at the parades. The Ragnar went a lot better this year. We have the Tyranita Run coming up. We've been working with Stacy over there, outstanding group of people, very willing to work with law enforcement and help us work with them to make sure that we can make their event successful and safe and make it enjoyable for everybody. So that's where we are with events. As things are kind of winding down for the year, we made it through the summer fairly well, even with the rerouting of the parade, the Town and Country Day Parade this year. I think that went fairly well, and that's going to be set up like that now for the next couple years. Re-signing around the schools. We were taking a look at the elementary school, and I know this is like the third time we're looking at it, and I think everybody's kind of getting to the point where they're getting a little frustrated with all the sign changes and stuff over there. But we would just want to make sure we get it right. As we were working with DPW on that, they ended up referring to somebody from the state who took a look at what our plan was for the schools, and there was a specific guideline that needs to be followed through the state. We found out that around most of our schools, our signs, they're signed well, but they aren't 100% in compliance with what the state is recommending. So what we're going to do is, working with Dwayne Vandermouse and Paul Hermanson and Dave Ward from the city and myself, and Officer A-Strike has a lot of good input, being our school officer, and working with the DOT engineer of signs, that we're going to hit every school and go around each one of them and make sure that we have them signed appropriately, have the signs where they need to be, and what they need to be in, and get rid of the ones that don't need to be there, because we all know too much sign clutter just kind of makes them ineffective. Everybody gets, they just kind of blend in after a while. So we don't want to over-sign, but then again, we want to make sure that we do have the the signs up that are required to be there by state. Hi, Carol. Good to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us. But we are going to get the elementary school done first, and then from there we'll go to all the other schools and make sure they're taken care of. Truck routes, they continue to be a concern on some of our streets, trucks off the truck routes. We've moved from the warning stage to the citing stage. I believe we've given everybody pretty much enough time. We know there's a lot of truck traffic that comes through here. The good majority of the truck traffic follows the law regarding the truck routes. Unfortunately, we have some people that weren't following it, and so it's time that the warnings are done, and now we are issuing citations. Officer Johnson was up on Mulberry Street, which seems to be one of the places we get a lot of complaints, and had started issuing citations to some truck drivers up there coming through there. I'm sure it's signed fairly well, and I'm sure they were aware that they shouldn't be on there. So citations are occurring there. Brookstone, also off of Harvey Road, we've been having semis coming through there and getting a lot of complaints from the residents with these semis coming through there. They know, truck drivers know. I know a lot of truck drivers, they know what their routes are, and when we have it signed, all we ask is that they follow those truck routes. Don't try and take shortcuts, because our officers are going to be out there, and we're issuing citations now for those violations. Let's see, we have police blotters. Thanks to Lake Mills leaders for putting the police blotters back in the newspaper. I know we had a lot of citizens wanting those back in there. and they are back in there now. They're more in a condensed version, but they still kind of get the gist of what's going on, and we want the citizens to be aware of what's going on in the community as the best we can. That's a good way to do it. Take a look at the police blotters. You get to see kind of step by step, the different dates and times and what had occurred or what the officers had been dispatched to. Police pointers. I'm not sure if anybody's had a chance to take a look at that. We've been doing it now for, I think, 6-7 months. Every one of the officers have a topic that they get to choose that is relative to a problem that they've seen in the community. And what they do is they get together with our video expert over there, Dave Grumman, and they put together a short presentation, kind of like a public service announcement, and they go and they get videotaped talking about this particular topic, how to deal with it, what the problem is, how to deal with it, how to correct it, and those then get disseminated out on our Facebook. They're on public access. Dave runs them on our Lake Mills TV channel, and we put them out on our website, on Twitter, so it's out there. Take the time to look at them. I know the officers love doing it, and in fact, I think it was their idea. I think it was Officer Cedarwall's idea. He said, I'm looking for a little bit more something to do, so thank you for that. It was great. No, they're doing an excellent job with it, and it's just a good way to get their faces out there as well and talk to our citizens about what sort of problems we're having and how to fix them and what we can do for them and what they can do for us to help us fix those problems. So please check those out if you haven't already. That should be kind of a running stream on our Facebook page. You can go back and check some of the past ones, and they've all been pretty good topics, things that we've been dealing with. Car break-ins, they seem to have subsided for right now. I think we did quite a bit of education on it. I know Captain Selk's been pretty involved with a lot of that. And just educating the public on, basically lock your cars. Take your belongings inside with you or lock them in a trunk. Don't leave that stuff out in where it's visible. Normally car break-ins are crimes of opportunity. You'll have people that are just looking for something of value so that they can grab real quickly, just break a window. And if you watch last month's August police pointer done by Captain Selk, he talks about that very topic. You can take a look at that. He shows you how fast that can be done, how fast a criminal can get in there, grab your belongings, and be gone with them. So, and then gives you some pretty good pointers on how to deal with it as well, so that you're not a victim. So just because they're down right now doesn't mean that they're not going to come back up. That's it's a crime of opportunity that occurs in most communities. The best thing that we can do is if you see something suspicious, give us a call. Somebody's poking around the car. In fact, I think that happened on one particular circumstance recently where somebody did give us a call. And never be afraid to give us a call. Give us the information. We'll get out there. We'll check it out as quick as we can. Get that license plate if you can. If they happen to be in a vehicle, or get a physical description of that person. And let's park our cars in safe locations if we can. Lock them up and keep your valuables out of sight, basically, and helps prevent you from becoming a victim. Traffic signal study. I'm going to bring this up. I know it's something maybe not everybody's on board with, but I feel pretty strongly, as a police chief here, that we need we could use traffic signals in some particular intersections here in the city. One of my major concerns is the one over on Madison and Main. That's probably our busiest intersection, and we just had a bad accident there last week. I think it was, or was that 2 weeks ago? Where we had 2 weeks ago. Oh, we had two crashes. Oh, I know one in particular was okay. Well, one was pretty bad. We had an SUV that was coming on on Madison Street, heading eastbound, and we had a car that was going northbound on Main Street. The young lady driving the car going northbound on Main Street went through the stop sign and crashed with the SUV. Well, the driver of the SUV, she was pregnant and she had several kids in the car. So both drivers had to be extricated out of the car. They both ended up in the hospital. Luckily, everybody's going to be okay from it. I believe Officer A-Strike investigated that. Citations were issued for the driver of the car that went through the stop sign for violating the stop sign and operating while suspended. There is going to be a rapid flashing beacon that's going to be put in on Fargo, Mulberry Street in Fargo. And there was, we had I should say the school had a crossing guard there over, well, actually for years. And there was about 20 years ago, there was a young man that was, a child that was hit there crossing the street and died as a result of that. So that's been kind of a street of contention for kids getting across Mulberry Street safely. So the city and the school district have teamed together to finance a rapid flashing beacon crosswalk to go in over there, very similar to what we put up on Madison Street, up on that hill, to help get the junior high school kids across Madison Street safely. So I think they have a lot of it already set up. It's just a matter of just them getting the time. They've been very busy in DPW, just getting the time to get that finished. So you should probably see that up and running here pretty soon. The mobile burglary, the mobile station was burglarized. That's going on several months now. And I'm not going to say too much about it other than we believe Captain Selk has been working with, well, not just departments in the county area, but has also been working with Columbia County Sheriff's Department. And there is a gentleman that's in custody at this particular point that we believe was involved or may have had some involvement with our mobile station burglary. So he's working on that as well. I don't know if there's anything else that you can or want to discuss about that at this point.
I'll be doing a criminal referral.
So Captain Selk feels pretty confident that he is our guy. And so he actually got caught in the process of burglarizing another place up in Columbia County, I believe it was, right? City of Reedsburg, yeah. And he does, gentleman does have ties to our community, or had ties to our community at one particular point. So good investigative work on that and good teamwork with all the other departments around there. In fact, I think that kind of came from City of Madison, ended up learning about what we were dealing with and gave us a call with some information they had. That kind of, that's how we work together with different police departments. Our detectives do, so that we can share this information. Communication is paramount, and that's how we solve cases. Same thing with our citizens. You see something, we work together, we share information with each other. That's how we solve these things a lot of time. So good job on that. So he should be getting referred here shortly. That means we send charges up over the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office makes a determination if they're going to charge the individual. They have enough to go to trial on it, and then if that's the case, he's already in jail. But and I believe, I don't want to misspeak, but I believe he's on parole too, right?
He got 18 years of parole left to serve for multiple burglaries. He just got out of prison for it.
Yeah, so he is a burglar. He's out on parole, and he's probably going to get his parole revoked. So I don't think we have to worry about him coming around for a while and burglarizing any more of our businesses here. But so good work on that. Car versus bike accident that we had over by the post office. I think everybody's citizens have heard about that. We worked with the State Patrol. We had Trooper Pete Moe come in because we weren't sure if the young man that got run over by the truck at that intersection, we weren't sure if he was going to make it. And when you take a look at the pictures from the scene, it appears as if there was a likelihood he wasn't going to. And he did. He's doing fine now. He ended up with some broken pelvis and stuff like that. But it's amazing. He's still alive. And with the dynamics of some of these accidents, I guess you just never know. How things are going to pan out. So we're real happy that he's alive. We're still investigating that matter. We're waiting for some lab results to come back from the driver of the truck so that we can make a determination where we're at with this particular case. Again, we have State Patrol. They came in. They did a reconstruction for us on us too. So we, again, left no stone unturned. We have a fairly good idea of what might have happened. But until we get those lab results back, we aren't releasing the name of the driver of the truck, and we aren't going to do any charges until we have that back and have all our evidence back and make a good decision on it. Everybody's aware of the Selgin stabbing incident, which now is kind of, I don't want to say past history, but it's, we're done with that investigation. That one's been closed, and Anthony Selgin has been sentenced to 2 years in prison for stabbing his brother, and I believe he has 2 years of probation or extended supervision after that. So, also the Madison Street firearms burglary that we had, Captain Selk worked on that particular case. We ended up making an arrest over in the city of Madison, working with city of Madison officers, and that individual stole well over 20 firearms from a house up on Madison Street. This was quite a few months ago now, but stole those items to support his drug habit, and particularly heroin. And we ended up getting most of the guns back. Some of the guns are still out there. We believe that they might have been sold or given to other drug dealers out there, so they're out there on the street somewhere. But we did a good investigation on that. He recently was sentenced to 2 years in prison, so he's off the streets for now as well. We have a suspicious death that occurred over the weekend over on 700 block of Madison Street, West Madison Street. 43-year-old man was found deceased, and obviously whenever we deal with something like that, 43 years old, that's very, we're gonna look at that very suspiciously. So we had the officers that were working that day. Captain Selk was called in to help with the investigation, and the officers that were working that particular case, did a good job on treating the crime scene and everything appropriately. And we call it a crime scene now just because it may have been an accident, it could have been a crime, and we don't know that yet. And we only have one chance to get everything we need to make sure that if it was in fact a crime, that we deal with it appropriately. So they did a good job with that. And we're at the point where an autopsy was done yesterday morning. Captain Selk was at that down in Milwaukee at the medical examiner's office, and we're waiting for some toxicology results to come back to make a determination as to what actually are we dealing with here. So community need not be afraid that any sort of that they're in any sort of danger. It's just one of those deaths that appear very suspicious, and so we're gonna take a look at it. And I'll also mention that we do have evidence that drugs and alcohol may, and I emphasize may, have been involved in this particular incident. So it remains under investigation. And Captain Selk, do you have anything that you care to add to that? Nope. All right. And let's see, what else do we have here? I think that's probably the most of what I have to discuss. I'd like to thank the community. We've been getting a great show of support for our police department. Our officers, trust me, our officers are out there doing the right thing. They are well trained, they are well equipped, they have direction, they know what to do out there. Don't be afraid of our police officers. What you see is what you get. We are there to serve you regardless of what any other differences may be out there. So we are totally objective. We're out there to serve you, and we appreciate you helping us serve you. So we appreciate the flow of support that's been coming in for the police department. It's tough times, and I know it's it's not a popular time to be an officer, but this trade has made it through these times in the past, back in the 70s and other times, and will prevail again. But I just want the message to be here that our officers are upstanding, good individuals. A lot of you know they've been here. A lot of our staff has been here for a long time, and we're here to serve you folks. Please don't be afraid or concerned for the way we respond or the way we act out there. You'll be treated appropriately. Okay. Does anybody have any questions from anything that I discussed this morning that I might be able to answer?
you discussed this. First, I'm sorry I'm late. I realized it was sort of formal. Do you have any sense if that whole heroin is receding or building up from here?
It's really, it seems like it kind of fluctuated a little bit. And for us, I mean, we're still getting heroin. We're still getting heroin off the street. In fact, we've made some stops, some arrests recently for heroin. We haven't had an overdose this year yet, I don't believe. I think the last one we had was last fall within our jurisdiction. It's still here. It's still out there. I have Officer Cedarwall is our in-house drug expert. He keeps a very close eye on what's going on with the drugs in relation to our community. He's been through the training with the Jefferson County Drug Task Force. He works hand in hand with the task force, with Margot, who's in charge of that, Sergeant Margot Gray. He also, we have Dave Warner, who is an officer that works with the Drug Task Force, who is assigned to this area, that between having that link and an educated officer within the department, educated on that concern and that collaboration, I think we've been doing a very good job on trying to keep things at bay and trying to be more proactive in addressing it before it rises to the level that things get out of control and then we're becoming more reactive. So is heroin still here? Yes, it is. Have we seen more of it than other communities? No. I have to say at this particular point, yeah, exactly. But I also, Sergeant Gray told me recently that they are seeing a comeback of meth in the area, methamphetamine. And in fact, I know officers one night actually made a stop up off of Tyranina Road, and as they were backing, I believe it was the county several months ago, and found a rolling meth lab where there was equipment to make methamphetamine out of a vehicle. So that's so it's here, and we just happen to be in that location. Sometimes it stays on the outskirts, sometimes it infiltrates in. But just with our location being between the two biggest cities in the state, and the stuff going, we know none of us are naive enough to believe that that's not occurring, transferring back and forth on a daily basis. And we just happen to be in that location where we can stop and get some gas, or take a bathroom break, or do a deal quick in a parking lot somewhere. So I mean, we're just in that. We're just in that area, and sometimes some of these people decide that they're going to hook up and bring it into the city, and then of course we also have implanted individuals that tend to keep on that trade, I guess, or keep doing that sort of stuff. So we're pretty well aware. I think we have a fairly good thumb on it. Not to say that we couldn't have a heroin overdose today, but the officers are also well trained in. They're all equipped with Narcan. To be able to revive people. We know who a lot of our players are, I guess, in the area, and with the good communication we have with the Drug Task Force, I think we're doing a fairly good job on keeping our thumb on top of it, but it's still there, and it's going to be there. And when I look at, I think it's the city of Greenfield, the chief gave a presentation at one of the recent chiefs meetings, Jefferson County Chiefs and Sheriffs meetings, and I don't want to misquote him, but I thought he told me he roughly dealt with about 150, or in the vicinity of 150 heroin overdoses last year. So when we take, but again, he's Milwaukee County. I know that makes a big difference, but we got to also remember that a lot of those people, or some of those people, are traveling back and forth, and so sometimes that stuff does filter in. So. Good question. Thank you, sir. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Okay. If not, we're just going to do just a short around the room, because I know the officers all have something on their mind they'd like to say. But we'll start with Officer Wallace. He has nothing. Officer Wayne Wallace, one of our day shifts officers. When you see him, wave to him, please. Make sure. Well, yeah, and don't be offended if you wave to him and he's focused on what's going on and doesn't wave back. I think I waved to you several times too, and you didn't wave, but I took it personal, but I shouldn't. Sergeant Whitty, anything? Okay, Sergeant Alan Whitty is our afternoon and night shift supervisor. He also supervises all our part-time officers. We currently have 3. We typically run with 4, so we're looking for that 4th part-time officer, and I'm very selective on who comes to work here for the department and for the community. So we will fill that space eventually, but I'm not going to rush it just to fill a slot. So does a great job. He's also tasked with a lot of administrative stuff as well as getting out on the street to street supervise. So, and we have Officer Dave Fritchie, who's one of our night shift officers, keeping us safe while everybody's sleeping. Dave, you have anything? I'm sorry? Don't have anything? All right. Dave is also our firearms instructor, so he does a lot of, he keeps us all shooting straight and accurately, and works. He also helps out with the county doing that sort of training, so we're lucky to have him on board. Our other night shift officer, who always comes to these things with a big smile on her face, Officer Jessica Johnson, in the back over there. Great investigator, awesome officer. Has been here for a long time. We're happy to have her on board. Jess, anything to share with us? Nothing? Life is good. You're just thinking about going to bed and getting some sleep, maybe. But okay. Officer Cedarwall, Brandon Cedarwall, afternoon, well, kind of a afternoon shift officer, drug task force officer for us. When I say that, he's not assigned to the team, but he works with the team here locally for us, doing an outstanding job. He's been here how long now? 2 years?
Almost 3.
Almost 3 years. Been here almost as long as me. So, yeah. But doing an excellent job out there. Anything you care to share?
Just real quick, with the drug stuff, a lot of our cases are being built up on what you guys see out there through the eyes and ears for us. Unfortunately, we get in all places at all time. Time we are also working at calls. So I've gotten a lot of drug cases, figured out a lot of people have found who are using cannabis or selling drugs by what you guys see in the community. So it's basically, if you see something suspicious as far as what you think it might be drug activity, give any one of us a call. All the officers here take that information and pass it on to me or to the investigator themselves, and we solve a lot of drug stuff from that. So really that's all we do. It's something minor. Follow up with it.
Yep. Good. Absolutely. Good point. And we've had recently had some individuals call us on suspicious activity with cars coming and going, different hours.
Basically, just a simple neighbor who believes that there was some type of drug activity, cars coming in and going, people going into the house for 5 minutes at a time and leaving, just have a constant flow of traffic, and after that investigation,
Right, right, and that's all good information to share with us. That is normally one of the biggest things that you will see is if you have a drug dealer in your community, you know your communities well enough, you know your neighbors, or at least the activity in your neighborhood. All of a sudden you have cars just coming and going, maybe on a certain day or days of the week, and they're just coming in for short visits and they're leaving, short visit, leave. And then you won't see any activity there for a couple of days. And another day, all of a sudden you got all these short visits coming in, these people leaving, you don't recognize these cars or anything. That's a good time to give us a call, because what's happening is these dealers are getting their shipments in and they're calling up all their clients and they're coming in, they're picking up their dope or their drugs and they're leaving. And you see that in your neighborhood, give us a call, because that's definitely a red flag that something's going on. That's real suspicious. So, all right. Do you have anything else, Captain Silk, my right-hand man?
Throw out there for the community and the businesses and such that We do presentations. We can do them with individual groups or businesses on, one thing the chief's been talking about a lot is the active shooter. And, we've been concentrating on the schools, but sometimes these things happen in workplaces. Sometimes they happen at businesses or restaurants. And we can train employees on what to do if that violence comes to their workplace. Because, history shows that if you have a plan or if you have thought about what's going to happen, you're going to at least act. And those couple of seconds of indecision when you hear something, you don't know what's going on, can be costly. So, we're currently starting to work with local businesses to teach them not only the active shooter aspect of that, but also things that happen such as scams. Everybody's getting emails every day asking them for money or telling them that they just won the lottery. Everybody's getting phone calls or mail, and there's been a lot of different ways that these things have developed where people try to steal your money. So I can give presentations to community groups and talk to them about how to avoid these scams, what to do if you think you're being scammed, and also just business safety or even residential safety, how to keep your home safer, with locks and recognizing suspicious activity, keeping your personal stuff locked up. So any community group, even individuals who would like some training in these areas, I recommend highly that you contact myself or the chief, and we'll schedule a time to get together with you and help you, make it, a safer community not only for yourself, but we find that if we are easy prey, that people tend to come back. If we're difficult, they're less likely to come back. So not only making you vigilant helps your neighbors, yourself, and it's less work for us. We appreciate that. So.
Right. Yeah, good point. And we have, with some of our, I don't know if Officer A strikes here this morning, but and some other of our officers that help them out. We've done just in addition to the active shooter training in the schools here. All our schools have been trained, but then also we've I know recently we did it for one of our elderly assisted living homes. We've done it for one of our churches. We've trained their staff on that, and in the library, we did it for the library staff. We just don't know nowadays. Normally, they pick these active shooters. Everybody who sees this stuff on the news, they're picking places where good people congregate on a daily basis and are going to have their guards, more than likely have their guards down. You just wouldn't expect somebody is, like the movie theaters, the library. These are places where they're hitting, the malls, where people are going to shop and not even, you're thinking you're safe, and you may not necessarily be. So we're trying to, I guess, take our active shooter for school training and morph that or adapt that into different environments for the staff, for people to know and understand how to react when something like that comes down. If someone were to come through that door right now, which would be a bad decision on their behalf, but if they were to come through that door and start shooting, how to deal with it, what's the best way to deal with it. So we want to get that training out there, get that to our citizens, and so everybody knows how to react to this. And Captain Selk's right. It's time that, unfortunately, we're living in that day and age where we don't want to be victims, and we don't want you to be victims, and we need people to understand that. Please don't make yourself vulnerable. Be thinking about this stuff. Don't obsess about it, but be thinking about it and keep yourself as safe as possible. And we're only a call away. So, all right, Captain Selk, anything else? Okay, I'd just like to thank Captain Selk too. He's my right-hand guy. He does an excellent job. He's been here for 20 years now? 22 and a half, but who's counting? Got the minutes too? Number of minutes? No, he's been here a long time, obviously, and not only is he my right-hand guy for administration, does a lot of work with that, but he's also our lead investigator, and he's been very busy lately. For a small town, we have, quite a few irons in the fire in some bigger cases, and we've believe me, if we don't get something solved, it's not from a lack of effort. He does a very good job at it, is very persistent, and makes sure that every stone is turned before we sit back on a case. So we have a good investigator here, and we're taking full advantage of that. We have Miss Terry Hines, Mrs. Terry Hines, with us this morning. She's one of our records dispatchers, does an outstanding job. Anything to share with us? Not a thing. Okay. The Wers family, for those that don't know, Greg Wers is a police and fire commissioner for City of Lake Mills. We're lucky to have him on our PFC. Outstanding individual. We have a great PFC, which helps us have a great police department to help serve our community. So thank you for that. And his wife, Melanie, who's a very lovely woman. Has to be married to Great. No, we won't go. All right, we have Jared Fish, Officer Jared Fish, works night shift right now. He's doing a great job. Recently got off of probation. He's a solid full-time officer. Is doing excellent out there, making a lot of traffic stops, and has made several OWI arrests lately that have turned into some pretty good cases with some drugs and stuff like that that you've been able to get off of the stops. So we're lucky to have him on board. He's doing an excellent job with us. Do you have anything to add? You got nothing. All right. Well, that pretty much sums up our Coffee with the Cops for today. Again, thank everybody for coming. We appreciate it. And please, when we do one of these down in the future, we try and advertise it the best that we can. And but not everybody is able to make it. Maybe we'll look at doing it a little bit later in the day next time. But as many people that we can get here, and we like to be transparent and share with you. You have the right to know what we're doing with in your community. With the police department. We want to answer questions. We want you to know the face of the police department so that you feel comfortable coming up to us and working with us, and we'll do everything we can for you. I'd also like to point out a gentleman back there in the blue hat, Mr. Tim Esser, who's on the chamber, president of the Chamber of Commerce. Normally shows up at these meetings. We really appreciate we appreciate his existence in our community. He is used to be a police officer. I don't know if he wants me to share that or not, but so he's one of our brethren in blue. So we appreciate all the support we get from Mr. Esser. Good gentleman. Thank you. Okay, that concludes today's Coffee with the Cops. Again, thanks for coming, and top off your cup of coffee. It's on me today.